Things are heating up in Tuscaloosa as a ton of five-stars show up to take their final official visit of the summer. Stick around. Let's talk about it. Maybe a prediction. We'll see. Welcome to Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Let's talk some recruiting. Before we get there, this weekend's about to be amazing. This is kind of the jumping off point, in my opinion, for Alabama's 2026 recruiting class. This is going to be the start of what you guys have been waiting on and expecting from the Tide. So we're going to cover all of it for you. We're going to have every bit of information. It'll come in the forms of shorts, lives, these kind of videos, whatever you want. We'll do it because here at Way Offsides, we aim to please. Be sure you're subscribed, subscribed, do all of that. Hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of it. Very easy to miss information nowadays because there's so much of it floating around out there. But if you're liked and subscribed to us, you won't. We'll give you our opinions, what we think. Doesn't always mean we're going to be right, and that is okay because nobody is right about everything 100% of the time. That is just life. Deal with it. Let's talk about recruits. Alabama's hosting a crazy weekend. I mean, if you didn't think it didn't get big enough already with five-star linebacker Xavier Griffin, four-star linebacker Nick Abrams, you had Elijah Golden on campus, you've had Brandon Arrington on campus. I mean, it has just been an insane pool of dudes visiting Alabama, whether they land them or not. Who they've been able to get on campus is pretty daggum impressive. But this weekend might be the most impressive of them all. Already on campus, you have five-star running back Xavier Crowell out of Jackson High School. Let's start there. Crowell is I believe he's the number 2 running back in the country. He is the number 3 player in the state of Alabama, number 31 nationally. He is a on-3 industry ranking of 95, and he is a 5-star recruit, and he is currently predicted via Wilt Fong, us, and a lot of other people to land at Alabama. You have to think those chances get better with Alabama taking or being his last official visit, but he has kind of been all over the SEC in the past few months. He has checked out Auburn, UGA. He was on an unofficial visit to Bama back in April. He's been to Texas, but he will finish up the slate here with the Tide. Not just that, he is joined by several other big names. But before we get there, I think in Crowell's case, I think Alabama's sitting in a very, very good position here. Alabama's kind of been the favorite in his recruitment since April. He has predictions all over the place to land with the Tide. Alabama understands that it really does need to win the state of Alabama. And what better place to start than with the number 3 player in said state? Now, what about the number 2 player in said state of Alabama? Now, these two are a little interchangeable, the next two, but we'll just call Sadarian Morgan the number 2 player in the state of Alabama. He's also the number 2 wide receiver in the 2026 class, carries a 97 on his industry rating. I almost said industry rating. And he's sitting in a very, very good spot with the Tide as well. Most agencies have him around 90% predicted to land with Alabama. The 5-star wide receiver this would be a big get. This would be another in-state battle. Auburn is in the mix here for the Benjamin Russell High School standout. He has been on a visit to Florida, who I think made an impression. I'm not saying that Florida's out of it. I think that given the right incentive, Florida could potentially land a guy like Ced Morgan. But right after that visit, Florida had, 3 or 4 commitments from wide receivers. All right after the same visit Sadarian Morgan was on. So I don't know how realistic that is. The other school to watch in his recruitment has been Colorado. The Buffs have been pretty involved. Obviously, Deion Sanders there helping to recruit. What's interesting about Morgan is he was just in Colorado this week visiting. I think that was more, I'm not 100% sure that was on an unofficial capacity. It definitely wasn't an official visit. May have been for something completely different. But UGA has been in this, and then Auburn has been in this one as well. Alabama is in the driver's seat, it looks like, per everywhere and everything. Things have been kind of quiet regarding Morgan since his UF visit, even with the Auburn visit last weekend. We thought that On3 would kind of create this narrative that Auburn was a little more aggressive in the standing compared to UF. Tried to do that with the Patriots so well. There's like one article. So we're talking the number 3 and the number 2 player in the state of Alabama. Now, what about the number 1 player? Again, he could be interchangeable with Sadarian Morgan. On3 actually has this one listed as the number 2 player in the state and Sadarian Morgan as the number 1 player in the state. But number 3 overall edge, Anthony Tank Jones out of St. Paul's down there in Mobile. He's the number 19 player nationally. I think he's probably the number 1 player in the state of Alabama. And out of these 3, I think he is also the least likely to land at Alabama. That doesn't mean that he won't. But a lot of other schools have been recruiting him hard, and it's not just guys in state. Obviously, Alabama and Auburn are involved here, but so are some big NIL players like Oregon, Miami, Texas A&M. You look at his list, his visits for officials. He went to Auburn back in earlier in May, finished up May with Miami. He was at Texas A&M earlier in June. Last weekend, he was at Oregon. This weekend, he will be at Alabama. 4 out of 5 of those used NIL as their primary recruiting tool. So what does that tell you about Tank? Well, you can draw some conclusions, but we don't want to say it out loud. He's been very, very quiet about his recruitment and what his plans are. There's not a lot of smoke around him in a sense of where he's going to go. I think Alabama's in a good position here. As of right now, could that change down the road? Absolutely. Bama's going to have to probably get a deal done for this one. And we'll see, there's always the potential of a bidding war when you're talking about schools like Texas A&M and Oregon. I think that kind of came into play with Brandon Arrington. I think there's even the potential that Alabama may be pulled out of that bidding war there. And that's why we saw everything rapidly happen with Arrington. There were rumors, and then all of a sudden he announces right off the cuff that it's just going to be Oregon and A&M. Right out, had just announced his last 3 were Alabama, Oregon, A&M. And then just a couple days after that, seemingly almost out of the blue, he commits to Texas A&M. So it's all the same thing with Luke Wafel between Oregon and Ohio State and USC earlier this week. So this is one to watch. Out of the 3 top 3 players in the state of Alabama, I think Jones is the least likely to land at Alabama. That doesn't mean Alabama's out of it. As of right now, if you're looking at trajectory, he is trajecting towards Alabama. C-Rob, Coach Womack, that's your primary and secondary recruiter for him. Auburn is still heavily in the mix. He does not have a legitimate commitment date set. I don't think. I could be wrong on that. But assuming he doesn't, this is one that could go into the fall. Game day visits could potentially be something that gets this one done. I'm sure Auburn will try to get him there for a home game at night. I'm sure Alabama will do the same. And so, but the bigger picture here is that Alabama is trying to win the state. Last year, a lot of the talk was that the Tide, Kalen DeBoer coming right in, he did not recruit well in the state of Alabama, which is not a surprise. He had been there for just a couple of months, but still finishes with the top 3 recruiting class, just not in the state of Alabama. But I think the emphasis this season is to show like, hey, this is still our state. It still runs through Tuscaloosa. And I think they're going to do that. I would not be surprised if Alabama goes 100% on those 3 guys. I think they definitely go 2 for 3. I don't think that's news to anybody who's been following recruiting in the 2026 class. But just for the sake of talking, I think Bama stands a pretty good chance to go 3 for 3 here. We'll see. I think Bone put out some stuff earlier regarding Tank and that, yes, it feels like it's going to be Alabama, but Texas A&M and Oregon are pushing very, very hard. We know how those schools tend to push hard. If you've been watching the Brandon Arrington stuff unfold for the past week and a half, money is how they push very, very hard. And I'm sure that Alabama's going to play that game, but only to an extent. And I don't think Alabama wants to put itself in a position to where they let a high school athlete get them into a bidding war with somebody else. So tell me what you think, guys. Stuff's already coming out. These kids are already on campus. Max Sutter's on campus. I know that for the past couple of weeks, folks have been kind of bummed out with recruits committing all over the place except Alabama, right? We got Sam Utu, we got Jet Tamala, but those big names that we've all been waiting on, I think that this weekend will be the catalyst to seeing some of those things start to fall in place. You got to think Alabama's in contention right now for 4 or 5 different 5-stars. They've already got Jordan Edmonds verbally committed. You got some guys who are going to get a bump. I potentially think a guy like Zion Gibson could get bumped at some point. Bama could finish this class still with 5 or 6 guys, maybe even 7, if they are able to close out on a guy like Xavier Griffin. So they're sitting in really good shape. I know I've said that before, and folks are like, what are you talking about? They're like number 50th in recruiting. Well, they are per 347, who's not constantly evaluating their talent. They're at like number 12 on 3, right outside of the top 10. Let's assume that they get Sadarian Morgan, Xavier Crowell. That gives them 3 5-stars right there. They're going to jump into the top 5. Let's assume that they get Jaira Edwards and that they get Xavier Griffin. That's probably going to boost them up into the top 3, if not at the number 1 spot. So take a deep breath and relax. It's all going to be good. I promise. Trust in Courtney Morgan. He knows what he's doing. Please be sure that you like and subscribe to all the things before you leave here. If you're watching this on any other form of social media, be sure to head over to YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stick around as we cover all of this for you. You guys are the best. We love you. We say it at the end of every show, but it's true. We do love you. Thanks for sticking around with me. Please be sure to say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Have a good 2 weeks. Roll Tide.